Hey y'all, welcome to this Midweek Devotional. We've been doing our MVP series where I interview someone in our church and just ask them a couple questions. This week we plan to do that, but the person I plan to interview is away on a holiday, so we're going to have to postpone that interview and do it another time, which means that our MVP series will be for an extra week, and I'll kind of break it up this week with just a little short midweek devotion for you guys. So if you want, I just want to read a scripture from Mark chapter 3, verses 1 to 6 with you guys. So it should come up on the screen in a second once I start reading. But yeah, let's just dive in. I want to share this short passage and then just make a quick observation for y'all. So here we go. This is what it says. Another time Jesus went into the synagogue, and a man with a shriveled hand was there. Some of them were looking for a reason to accuse Jesus, so they watched him closely to see if he would heal him on the Sabbath. Jesus said to the man with the shriveled hand, "Stand up in front of everyone." And I just want to pause there because I reckon that would be pretty hard for this, for this man. We can see how Jesus is kind of getting set up in this, but poor guy, he's just got a shriveled hand, and he's kind of been asked to stand up in front of everyone. That would have been unraveling in that moment, because I'm sure he senses as well what's going on. He probably sees the cold looks from the Pharisees. He knows about this Jesus guy. So it all seems interesting to me that he's asked to stand up, and the pressure that must have put on him. But he does what Jesus asks, which I think is awesome. So let's just keep reading the rest of the story. So it goes on. And then Jesus asked them, "Which is lawful on the Sabbath, to do good or to do evil, to save life or to kill?" But they remained silent. He looked around at them in anger and, deeply distressed at their stubborn hearts, said to the man, "Stretch out your hand." He stretched it out, and his hand was completely restored. Then the Pharisees went out and began to plot with the Herodians how they might kill Jesus. I really love that story for lots of different reasons. But I love two things in that story that I just want to point out. At first, I love that this person with the shriveled hand didn't shy away. He didn't, when he was asked to stand up, go run and hide. I feel like if I was in that situation, that's what I would have done. I would have ran and hid somewhere, where no one could find me. Done something to get myself out of that tense moment, because I feel like you would have been able to sense the tension. This is towards, Jesus is starting to make movement in his ministry. He's, disrupting the powers that be, the religious leaders of the day. All these things are happening. So I'm sure this gentleman knows the tension going on. I'm sure everyone else in the room does. But also love the question Jesus asked, which is lawful on the Sabbath, to do good or to do evil, to save a life or to kill? I guess, and then, he obviously heals them. So he's saying, even on the Sabbath or important days or important religious events or important anything, if we see an opportunity to do good, to show God's love to somebody, we should step out and do it. And that's a big question to ask. And I think sometimes we can see what Jesus does, and we're like, the Pharisees, they're just stubborn. They should have responded, and, all these different things. But I sometimes wonder, how often would we do the same? How often, and don't obviously celebrate the Sabbath nowadays as much as the Jews did, making the day really special and going to synagogue. But we have our own special day on a Sunday where we go to church on a Sunday. Lots of Christians like to go to a church building, gather together, worship together. It's all amazing, and I think it's a beautiful thing. But how often on our way to that would we stop and be inconvenienced if someone needed a hand? Say someone had a flat tire on the side of the road and you're running late to church. Are you going to make a call, to let whoever know if you're on something, you're running late, and pull over and help change a flat tire of a stranger? Because I kind of feel like that's what Jesus is asking. If we see a moment to do good and it's in our capacity to do it, are we going to do it? And I think there's amazing fruit when we step out and do it. I still remember one time when I was just starting at Humeridge, I was rushing to get to practice this interview I was doing with Lauren England. She was going to interview me on a Sunday for a sermon series she was working on, and we were just going to practice beforehand. So I'm trying to get back to the church, and I'm driving past and I see two young boys who I've been the chappie for. And they're crossing a road holding a duck that looks injured. And I know they live a little bit further from there. I know, the family doesn't have a car. They take the bus and that kind of stuff. So I pull over to ask them what's going on. And it ends up they found this little duck that was hurt on the side of the road. And they didn't want to just let it die, and everyone else was driving past. So I helped them find out a vet that was still open. And, it was a Sunday, so we're having to find the emergency vet because it's before the night service at church. And I remember getting them to the vet, then getting them back home after that. For them, it was an awesome experience that I think they even came to church with me after that. Like, we called and asked Mom if it was all right if they came, because they could, go to kids and youth. And I just remember that whole situation and how it played out. Like, it was a big moment for those kids because they even said, people just kept driving past. Thank you for stopping, Chappie. They waved me down, and I could have just kept rushing because I had somewhere to be, but I stopped. And I think something beautiful happened in that moment. And I was blessed in that moment. And I think that night when, we did the service and I was interviewed, I think God moved through me more. Even though I didn't prepare and stuff, the interview went without a, mess up or anything, which is surprising when you consider someone interviewing me. I mess up lots of times. But yeah, it went really well. But I sometimes wonder, how often are we willing to do that? How often are we willing to step out and do good when it's in our capacity, even if it's an important day? And I don't think this means, if there's an important day, we have to throw every important day to the side if someone needs a hand. I'm not saying that. But I think we know the moments where it's in our capacity, where there might be something important, but you could squeeze it in. You could give that phone call and rearrange something. The world's not going to stop spinning because you missed something. We all know those moments where it's in our capacity to do good. Are we willing to step out in those moments? And that's something I've been sitting with and reflecting on, and I just kind of wanted to share, and I encourage you to reflect on. Because I feel like sometimes we see these questions and these stories of what Jesus is asking. It's usually the Pharisees and religious leaders, and we usually pawn them off as really bad. But I think sometimes we're all like the Pharisees. And I wonder how often we would stop to do good, to save a life. Because we don't know what's going to happen in those little moments. So I want to encourage you to sit with that, to figure out what God might be telling you in that. And I thank you so much for joining us for this midweek devotional. And may God's grace and peace